we've been tracking for you this evening. Fintech unicorn BharatPe has turned EBITDA positive in October. Backed by the likes of Peak 15 and Tiger Global, the startup saw its annualized revenues grow 31% on a yearly basis. The firm attributes this to the consistent growth it has seen across all of its business verticals, as well as the fact that it was able to significantly cut down its EBITDA burn. Joining us now for a first and exclusive interview are Nalin Negi, the interim CEO and CFO of BharatPe, and Harshit Sethi, the managing director at Peak 15 and board member at BharatPe. Also joining us is my colleague Ritu. Gentlemen, welcome to Startup Street. Nalin, let me start with you. BharatPe, like I mentioned earlier, has turned EBITDA positive, and October is its first profitable month. Tell us what led to this. You've significantly cut down EBITDA burn. Can you tell us by how much versus 60 crores in FY23?
Yeah. First of all, thanks for having me here. There are a lot of things that we've been doing, and I must say that things have not just been done in the last few months. We've been on it for some time. We looked at all the aspects of the business, and not just any specific product or any specific line in the P&L. We looked at the revenue as to how do we go about increasing the yield on the revenue, and we took some steps to ensure that our revenue yield increases month on month and over a period of time. The second thing that we looked at was our cost of funds. And since we facilitate loans through our NBFC partners, and wherever there is an undeployed capital, how do you reduce that and bring down your cost of capital? The third thing we also worked on is the credit losses expected out of the loans facilitated by us. Here, one of the things that I would like to point out is that merchant lending is a new segment in the country, and what happens is it's still going through its maturity phase, and still a long way to achieve maturity. So we had our own learning out of this, and not just for us, but even for merchants. And we did a lot of work here in terms of underwriting, in terms of selection of merchants, in terms of the criteria that we use for identifying a merchant. So credit loss also was brought down, and similarly, a lot of work done on operating expense line, and these are numerous lines where we worked on. And so while initially our business model on a unit economic basis was negative, we worked on it to become positive, and now we have a positive business unit economics, and there are still areas to improve. I'm not saying that we've got it all right. There are still to be done. Now all we need to do is to scale up the business.
Well, Nalin, you still haven't given us the numbers. So 60 crores of EBITDA burn per month in FY23. What is the current number? And speaking of more work to be done, what about overall profitability? How soon do you hope to achieve that?
So I would say that we are in early single-digit profitability as of now. And the next goal for us is being consistent in delivering this month on month and then quarter on quarter. And our first goal is, be EBITDA positive for the full quarter, and then for the half year. We may not be able to achieve full year EBITDA positive number for the year, because we've just done it from October onwards. We definitely look at next financial year to be EBITDA positive, and also make inroads towards becoming PBT profitable in the next financial year. But I would say that that's still away, and we'll work towards that.
All right. On that note, let me quickly go across to Harshit. Harshit, Peak 15 doesn't talk about its portfolio companies, but today you make an exception, as this is a milestone for BharatPe. Is this a classic case on how investors can work with founders and help build businesses and clean up the noise?
Yeah, I mean, thank you first for having me here. It's certainly been a roller coaster of a journey over the last 2 years, but I'm thrilled with sort of the progress the company's made. I'd say, us and everybody on the board has really been focused on what are the right things we can do to enable the business to succeed long term without focusing on any short-term impact. So despite all the noise, I'd say, for us, focus was on a few different fronts. The first was on the team. We feel like we've got significant talent. Nalin has joined us a year and a half ago, and like him, we have perhaps 5 or 6 other very strong CXOs that have joined the team over the last few years. We've expanded the board. We've added 2 independent directors. We've added Mr. Kanungo, who's the former deputy governor of the RBI, and perhaps the only fintech that has a deputy governor on their board, as well as Mr. Kaushik Datta, who's chairman of the board at Zomato and a longtime PwC partner to, sort of lead our audit committee. And similarly, we've made inroads on making sure we have the right licenses to be able to achieve the progress we'd like to. We've got sort of, we've become promoters of an NBFC. We've received in-principle approval for a PAPG license. And of course, we have a strategic partnership with Unity Small Finance Bank. So I'd say across the board, our focus has been on what are the long-term changes we can do that can help the business sustainably deliver profitable growth. And that's been our focus. And we hope to see that continue.
Okay. Well, Harshit, we'll come back to you on that point. But Nalin, your annualized revenues have now crossed 1,500 crores. Will this 31% kind of growth rate continue? And what will drive this revenue growth? Whether it is the lending business or the fee business, what sort of growth are you expecting across?
So, first of all, the growth would come initially from the lending business because that's a more matured business compared to other businesses that we have. And for that, we need to grow our network. And as we grow the network, more lending and more loan can be facilitated out of that. Having said that, that's not the only focus for the company. We are working on many other fronts as well. Postpay, which is the consumer offering that we have, was impacted due to changes in the regulation. However, we're working with our partner bank, Unity, and we should be launching a co-branded credit card soon, and that would also help in increasing the revenue. While it's difficult to put whether you'll get a 31% revenue growth month on month or on a period, but our endeavor is that we should be growing faster than what we had experienced in the past, because we have the levers now to grow.
Nalin, you've also recorded a monthly TPV of over 14,000 crore rupees across your payments products. What's the outlook for these, between merchant lending, Postpay, POS and Soundbox? What's the revenue mix and which segment is growing the fastest?
So the 14,000 crores TPV that you hear is a combination of, on the network side, the UPI and the POS, both of them together. The consumer TPV is not included in this. Our revenue mix, one way of looking at the revenue mix is in terms of interest and non-interest income, that is 55 to 45, 55 being the interest income. The other way of looking at it is from a business perspective, right now, the network and the merchant lending side is the biggest business, which contributes almost around about close to 60% of the revenue. Around about 15% comes from the consumer side, and the devices business, which is the Soundbox as well as the swipe business, gives around 25% of revenue.
Okay, we have very little time left. So Harshit, quickly coming back to your priorities as a board member, you highlighted several, but despite all these top level exits and you've remolded the board, the last CEO, Suhail Samir, left nearly a year ago, and you're still running within interim CEO. So, what is the timeline you're looking at? What is the process where you're at to appoint a full-time CEO for the company to begin with?
Yeah, I'd say, while it's been close to a year, I'd say the first few months post the transition was just making sure that we had the right governance and decision-making frameworks inside the company set. And that's where Nalin stepped up. With respect to the process, we are sort of in advanced stages and we hope to have an announcement to be made soon.
Okay.
It's a decision to take with utmost seriousness because, this is going to be the new leader of the business. And we would like to find somebody that can sort of, make sure that we keep the technology DNA of the company alive while also understanding financial services.
All right, Harshit. So the CEO announcement will happen soon. One quick question, another, if you could answer very quickly. I have to address the elephant in the room. The case with Ashni Grover is dragging on, and this public spat does impact the image of the company, especially since BharatPe wants to go public. Any possibility of a settlement outside? If you could also share the IPO timeline quickly.
Yeah, our focus is to be IPO ready. I think, IPO timeline will depend on market conditions. And I think, to be IPO ready, we want to make sure we have the right governance framework in place, which is sort of something I hinted at, as well as having sustainable business. So, we hope to be IPO ready soon. And then I think an IPO will depend on market conditions. With respect to sort of, some of the ongoing litigation, our sort of core focus is to protect the company. That's our responsibility as board members. And we will do what it takes to protect the company. And so we have full faith in judicial system and the cost that it will take.
All right, Harjeet and Nalin, we've completely run out of time, but many thanks for joining us on Startup Street and wish you the very best going forward.